On Tuesday, the 25th of July, yet another Canadair water bomber was lost in the line of duty, this time in Platanistos, Greece. Here's what we know so far. On the Aviation Safety Network, a Canadair CL-215, that's the older radial engine model with the Pratt & Whitney 2800 engines, impacted terrain shortly after dropping a load of water over a forest fire on a hillside near Charistos. A video of the accident sequence shows that the float on the right-hand wingtip struck a tree and broke off before the aircraft turned right and impacted terrain, bursting into flames. The aircraft was attached to the 355th Tactical Support Squadron of the 112th Combat Wing of the Greek Air Force. The Greek Air Force released the names of the pilots. The captain was Christos Moulas, 34 years old, and the co-pilot, Pericles Stefanidis, only 27 years old. The entire accident was captured on video. This is the third fatal water bomber crash in 4 years. We had the crash in August of 2020 in Spain and the accelerated stall in Italy, October of 2022, both covered on this channel. As we look at this latest crash video, we can see the crew is doing a direct attack on a small spot fire, what appears to be a small spot fire. And the crew is operating at entirely too low of an altitude. Investigators will have to be looking at fatigue, crew experience, the weather and the winds at the time of the accident, a whole lot of other factors. But primarily, this crew is flying too low and too unstable of an approach into rising terrain. You never want to drop into rising terrain. So let's break this down. Another very easy thing to do as a water bomber or fire bombing pilot, or anytime you're operating low altitude like this, is target fixation. That'll drive you in to get too low to the target and is one of the number one causes of CFIT, or controlled flight into terrain. So he begins his water drop. Remember, as the water drops out of the aircraft, you'll get a slight pitch up nose trim, but the whole thing is designed such that the water comes out of the center of gravity of the aircraft, so there's not a massive pitch up to have to deal with on the drop itself. So he's dropping it directly onto the flames as opposed to indirect attack, which we use a lot out here with retardant, not just water. But right here, he clips this tree with the right wing. Right, hold it. Right back here, we see the right float departing the aircraft. This is not the right aileron, this is the right float of the airplane. Looking at the aircraft, it looks like both ailerons are still attached to the aircraft. But as the aircraft continues to turn around, we see some damage to the leading edge of the wing. Now, investigators will be looking at this very closely, frame by frame, and they'll be looking at the control inputs. The flaps are still down, and it's hard to tell what the ailerons are doing at this point, but it does not look like there's a lot of left aileron or left rudder input at this point. In fact, it looks like there's still right rudder input. So as we zoom in closer, we can see damage to the right wing. It could be left aileron input there, hard to tell, but I'm looking at the rudder is still right rudder. At first glance, it appears once this aircraft blows through this tree that it perhaps might be salvageable, especially if you could give it a large boot of left rudder. But I don't see a lot of control application applied, and the aircraft continues in the sharp right bank into the terrain. And the way this aircraft continues to fly around this turn, it does not appear to be a aerodynamic stall or an accelerated stall. Now, taking it right back to the point of impact of the tree, the right, not sponson, but the right wing float departs the aircraft. These wing floats are designed to hold the aircraft level on the water, and they are designed to break off of the aircraft in the event of a hard water landing or a lot of side load in a water landing. The floats are designed to break off, but in the case of a real hard impact like this with a tree, it's very likely that this, and the investigators will be able to figure all this out, and this is what they're going to be looking at. Did this right float jam up into the wing, and did it possibly jam the aileron control? And the other question I have for all of you in the CL215 community, first off, this being the early model CL215, did this have rudder boost, or correction, aileron boost applied to it? They later modified a lot of these aircraft with aileron boost, hydraulic boost, to relieve the fatigue of operating these aircraft. Operating the old CL215s with the round engines is a lot of physical hard work maneuvering these aircraft, which again plays into the fatigue thing that the investigators are going to be looking at. The other thing is, does the CL215 have an aileron rudder interconnect system? And if it does have a rudder aileron interconnect system, which is common to a lot of aircraft, is it possible, or did a jammed aileron control also cause a jamming of the rudder control, which may perhaps explain why we don't see a lot of opposite control input put into the aircraft at this time, and the aircraft instead just continue around in a hard right turn into the ground. Also, two investigators will be able to look at the right engine. Did it lose power in the impact with the tree? But looking at this video, it appears to me that the right engine is continuing to operate normally. So regardless of what happened to the aircraft after it struck the tree, the primary cause of this accident is a drop being performed at much too low of an altitude with a very unstabilized approach, just cowboying it in once again into a tight drop into a very small fire. There is safe and effective use of aerial resources, and this is neither safe nor effective. And if the waterbombing fleet overseas continues to operate like this, they're going to continue to lose aircraft at an alarming rate. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.